My guest today is Marc Beckman, AI strategist and senior advisor to Melania Trump, and the author of the book, Some Future Day How AI is Going to Change Everything. Looks like it already has. He's helped shape digital strategy for global brands like the NBA, Sony, Nelson Mandela, and he's weighing in, of course, on one of the most important topics over the last 100 days, the first 100 days of the presidency, which is the Take It Down Act, which was being led by Melania Trump. You see this affecting young children and the AI manipulation of images, really leading to devastating consequences for teenagers. So the president was proud to sign that after Congress passed it overwhelmingly. And Marc joins us today. Marc, great to have you here on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor.
Well, we've got so much to talk about. You know, Natalie and I lately, we've just been having a lot of deep conversations, like over dinner, just about artificial intelligence and the Pope coming into power now, the new Pope, Leo. His comments about artificial intelligence, he really feels like this is going to be his mission to sort of guide the Catholic Church through this AI, or guide humanity in many ways through this AI revolution. Melania Trump just launching a new audiobook using artificial intelligence. Congress trying to basically take regulatory control of AI away from the states. This was actually buried in the big, beautiful bill, and it was widely underreported, actually, so that states wouldn't have the ability, like I'm here in Colorado. I think you're on the East Coast, like Colorado wouldn't have the ability to protect its own citizens against AI. It would have to be handled by Congress. So a lot of things to talk about here. But first, I just want to understand. Let's talk about the Take It Down Act and how you got involved with Melania Trump on that, and why was that so important?
Well, it's a very interesting situation because the a person like me, I don't really like to rely on the government so much. I'd rather see families and, the private business sector before the government steps in. But in this instance, there's no doubt that the government did the right thing. It was a bipartisan approach with Senators Cruz and Senator Klobuchar, and from there they pushed it in a major bipartisan vote in the House, 409-2. And just to provide you with some context and to show you why I think it was important for the government to step in, the victim in this instance was a girl from Texas, 15-year-old girl named Elliston Berry. And Elliston's peers superimposed an image of her face on top of pornography, a pornographic video. They then took that deep fake, that non-consensual intimate imagery, and spread it out across the internet through social media. They started with Snapchat, but then went across Meta, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and beyond. And by the time she woke up, it was all over the planet, and her life was ruined. So, like any other 15-year-old girl, she went into her parents' room and asked them to help her out. And of course, her parents were alarmed. It's a really scary situation if you think about it. And they went and quickly tried to contact all of these social media platforms requesting that they take down this deep fake porn of their 15-year-old daughter. But much to their chagrin, not one company assisted, not one company took it down. So that's when Senator Cruz got involved, and I really commend him for doing this. I think there is a slippery slope as it gets to freedom of speech, but we could talk about that later. As I said, the Congress pushed this through. Melania Trump helped usher it, and the president and Melania signed this. Actually, Melania signed it as well into binding law just a few days ago. And now it holds these corporations, these tech companies, which they seem to be kind of insulated from any liability. Now they're held responsible if they're notified that there is a deep fake porn or non-consensual intimate imagery, and a victim puts them on notice. They have 48 hours to take it down, and if they don't take it down, they are going to be held responsible with heavy fines. So it's an interesting change as it relates to the shift of balance from big tech versus families as well as government. But if you look at that ecosystem, we do need as people to look at how we're training our children or educating our children to understand that, deep fake is real and what they see is not necessarily the truth. And they need to be concerned and vigilant, not just that they're going to be hurt with this type of behavior, but also there might be images or messages that aren't true that entities, other governments, foreign governments, et cetera, are putting out there. So, our generation of seeing is believing is no longer the standard. The right standard now is see and verify.
The most important thing that you can do to protect your family today is to protect them from cyber criminals and online predators. I mean, it is disgusting, this new era that we're living in. And there's one app that does it all. It's called Bunker. That's right. Bunker is developed by experts with 25 years of experience catching criminals and fighting cybercrime. They created Bunker to protect their own family, and now they're sharing it with you. What do you get with a Bunker family plan? Well, you get a private messenger to share messages, photos, and files with your spouse, your children, connecting only people that you approve. No spam, no surveillance, no imposters ever. Password Manager, they also provide you to safeguard your family's online accounts, including financial, shopping, streaming, social media. And they've created a vault that will securely store everything for your family: wedding photos, baby pictures, special memories, financial information. You've got pictures of your IDs, birth certificates, passports, tax documents, wills, trust, insurance, all of it in that vault. So visit bunker.life/redacted and use the code redacted for 25% off your family plan. I know it's such a dark time in many ways, and it is scary. I mean, I think about my daughter just turned 13 a few weeks ago, and I've got an 8-year-old daughter, and the thought of having my daughter come into my room and sharing images with me and saying, "Daddy, can you do something about this? This is all over the internet. This is me. Someone did that." I would be, oh my God, I can't even imagine. My heart just aches for that family to think that that would happen. So good on you, and thanks to Melania Trump for leading this effort to get this through, and thanks to President Trump for signing it, and thanks to Congress for getting its heads out of its asses and actually doing something for the American people in a bipartisan way. But you bring up a great point. Like, what is true anymore, right? I mean, we're all over X. We're watching different. We see these different memes. We see these sort of AI generated memes, and sometimes shows like Bobby Kennedy making comments about different things, and you find out, oh, this is AI generated. But these things travel fast, very fast. And was it Mark Twain who said, a lie can travel around the world before the truth has a chance to put on its pants in the morning? And I think that's kind of the state of things with AI, no?
Yeah, that's for sure, especially with people in sensitive positions. Think in terms of governmental leaders at that highest level, presidents, prime ministers. Think about chief executive officers. The sad reality is that most people aren't going to take the time to figure out whether or not an image or a video that they're viewing is real, is the truth. And then even if there's a statement that comes out after the fact, verifying that, in fact, that was not an authentic video of the CEO or the government official. Most people, like, the damage has already been done. Most people will already have the concept embedded in their mind, and they think that it was real and that it actually happened. So we're really in a situation that's tenuous, and this issue is going to occur on a global scale as it relates to governments putting out propaganda, disinformation, misinformation, and beyond. In fact, there was just an incident, I would say a month ago or so. It wasn't widely reported, but Reuters did cover it, where China started a propaganda campaign against America and against democracy into Taiwan, fully through the use of artificial intelligence, video, photography, and written word. So, it's
How did that
we're
look?
entering a
What were the components of that?
Yep. So apparently, somehow, China, if I understand correctly, apparently China ramped up an information campaign to try to push the Taiwanese away from the Americans. And the campaign was maligning American democracy. I'm not sure what the detail of the campaign was as it relates to the content itself. But it's my understanding that they were able to use artificial intelligence in such a believable way that it actually reached news stations in Taiwan with video and beyond. So it was pretty impactful.
Well, we've also seen these AI generated videos of American factory workers during the whole tariff battle, showing these like sort of obese American factory workers that are just sort of very slowly putting buttons on pants and things like that. And we can show some of them here. This was, born right out of China, but this is all AI, because people in the chat room, when we first showed these images, were like, wow, where did they get these actors to do this, to show that, hey, if you want to tariff China, good luck building your own things anymore in America. You're not going to be able to put buttons on pants as quickly as our little hands can, but these weren't actors. This was all AI.
That's right. And it's really easy to manipulate too. I talk about it quite a lot in the book. I mean, think about the shift of language as it relates to impacting society with original content as well as original programming. It's really interesting and fascinating to think about the fact that now you don't need to have the ability to manipulate a camera or a video camera. You don't even need to purchase a video camera. All you need to do is speak English and provide a strong text prompt to create these video images that one would want to develop. So imagine in plain English, in a text box, you can direct artificial intelligence to put together a campaign that shows these overweight American workers, or that shows that, your neighbor's wife was cheating on him. Like something like this can happen quite easily now for almost no money. So it really is a shift. And from a programming perspective, it's just worth noting. It's so interesting to me. I'll geek out a little bit, but all of our children, you talk about your two children, they're still learning programming in school with the language specifically to computer science, computer engineering, programming. But the language of the future for programming will be simple English. We're already going there. So you could use artificial intelligence platforms. Most people will, and that's going to trigger a lot of I got you spinning, right? It's already going to create
Yeah.
a lot of different businesses and content and beyond.
Well, it's amazing to me to think that you could just, with a few, few sentences of English, put a prompt in to create a website. Maybe you love fly fishing. I want to create a fly fishing website. Just with AI, I want it to look like, I want it to look like Dick's Sporting Goods website, whatever. You just, a few sentences. Here's my idea for a new website. I want it to be about fly fishing. I want it to look rustic. I want it to, I want it to have beautiful scenery. I want to have a few tabs, few pages of places to fish, store, equipment to buy, and some video tutorials. Boom, can you create a website for me? And within just a few seconds, I could, it could spit out an entire code base that now I've got a website built. So that's amazing to me, to think that you could create like, an iPhone app or an Android app or a video game or whatever, instead of sitting there having to learn how to write, Python code or whatever else, Swift code for Apple, that with just a few sentences and prompts, you can be creating applications and video games and software and CRMs and all of these things. It's crazy to me. Wow.
Yeah, emerging technology. Yeah, it's really wild. Emerging technology will also have a leveling will level the playing field as it relates to entrepreneurs. So think about that entrepreneur that created that fly fishing website, right? So I'm sure that individual, a lot of us dream of like, hey, it would be cool. I'm an avid fisherman. I'm really into fly fishing. I'd love to start my own company. I want to create rods and gear and, the entire experience, but I can't compete with bass, right? But now
Right.
I call it the iron triangle in my book. Now I can leverage artificial intelligence to create product designs, the website, and beyond. I could pre-sell that those products. Let's say it's rods and reels and any kind of merch. I could pre-sell them off my website, part of the Iron Triangle is social media. I could promote it for relatively small amount of money with social media. Interesting to note that Mark Zuckerberg recently announced that he's going to be taking in the ability to create original content to promote on social media as well, which will eliminate advertising agencies because now you could do media buying and campaign creation just with Meta. And then the third piece of it is payment systems. Think in terms of cryptocurrency all over the world. So that individual who would say, I could never compete with Bass, I could never compete with this major corporation, can now mitigate his risk, stand up a business, pre-sell the rods and the gear, do so in a way where you're managing the expectation of the consumer, right? Like if I know that that rod looks cool, but I'm not going to get it for 6 months, I could put my money in there as long as I understand it's going to be delivered when I expect. The social media campaign is ramped up in a major way globally, locally. You can lay out now easily psychographic profile, demographic profile, whoever it is that you want to hit by city, by region, and then get payment through cryptocurrency or other digital assets. We're going to see a transformation. And I think this type of let's say, little guy, individual entrepreneur versus legacy businesses disrupting major corporations is going to occur in the fashion industry, in Hollywood, in book publishing, certainly the music industry. We're going to see it a lot where that dreamer, whether they're sitting in, Colorado or an apartment uptown in Manhattan, can, come up with a creative idea and launch a business in a matter of days.
It's remarkable. It really is. It's like disintermediated commerce in a lot of ways, and where you used to have to rely on hundreds of people inside of a corporation. We're seeing it in video game development, actually. I'm a tech geek, so I love this stuff, and I used to cover technology quite extensively back when I worked at Fox News, and would go to Apple events and Steve Jobs keynotes and all of that stuff. So I love it. I'm fascinated by it. I'm also worried about it. But you see that like with video game development, small little studios with 33 people could launch a game of the year instead of having these big ocean liner companies that have thousands of employees and have all sorts of middle management people telling them what they can and cannot say, and DEI departments telling them what they can and cannot say. And now small little teams using this type of technology can move quickly and be able to get a product to market in a way that we've never seen before.
And harness incredible areas of our population. So globally right now, gaming has 3.3 billion gamers across the planet, 3.3 billion. And with the advent of artificial intelligence, corporations and brands could advertise entirely different. I think we're going to see platforms like Minecraft, Fortnite, and other areas where people build and create totally shift the delivery of entertainment. I think you're going to see a shift away from YouTube into, hey, I want to go into Roblox right now and see like a live game show type of scenario where I can buy digital assets and I can listen to new songs digitally. The youth culture, and it's really not even the youth culture anymore, really, if you think about it, like how many 40-year-olds and younger are in the gaming space, and that will continue to accelerate. So with the advent of AI, I think we're going to see gaming shift from, building and creative dream worlds and shooting things into a whole new experience as it relates to delivering talk shows and beyond. And as you're probably aware, I'm curious what you think, like gaming is such a great area for new technologies to reach mass consumer adoption. It usually starts, in my opinion, in the gaming space. So there are a lot of new inventions coming through artificial intelligence right now. But if you really think about it, the enterprise impact is not as great as maybe we would think it would have been by now. But I think the end users will start to adopt ideas in a bigger way surrounding AI through gaming.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, I definitely see what's happening with sort of like this metaverse idea that, Mark Zuckerberg tried to create with Meta. It didn't really catch on, but it's already been created in many ways in games like Fortnite. It's not something I play, but my son who's 14, he enjoys it with his friends and his cousin, and they'll jump on for 20 minutes and they'll do a session and then be like, all right, see ya. They'll play a session together, and that's his way to connect with his cousin that lives thousands of miles away. But in that Fortnite world, there's like concerts, in many ways, that is the metaverse for people, and that's a version of it where they've have big concerts where millions of people will watch a concert through Fortnite. And then like in the Roblox universe as well. I mean, I know like my daughter learns like new music through there, and they'll dance and stuff, and they do dance competitions, through. So it's like, it's crazy. It's amazing to think that, you'd move away. We moved away from cable television. That's gone, pretty much dead, right?
Great.
And now we're talking about really moving away from like YouTube. We're moving away from like just video platforms to move into this environment. Is that how you see it?
I think so, because you're also going to be able to use new types of AI to get hyper realistic video imagery into these game formats. So if the audience is already there, you would imagine that they'll just pop into this new stadium and get into some sort of a game show. So like when you talk about concerts in Fortnite, I think Travis Scott in 2020, like think about the monetization level here and the amount of work that he did. I think it was 2020 when Travis Scott had a live concert performance in Fortnite, and the images were all digital. It wasn't hyper realistic, photorealistic imagery. It was, pixelated to a certain extent. But Travis Scott had such a big reaction. He generated in personal income it's my understanding, north of $20 million at that moment in time from his living room for a few songs. So imagine artists now, they don't want to get off their couch. They don't want to be on a tour bus all over the country. That amount of money is just an enormous amount of money to generate without having to travel from city to city to city all summer long. And I think we're going to see these types of businesses like music and entertainment really come on in a big way as AI and the different delivery systems continue to improve the user experience.
I think you're right about that. We saw in London a few years ago. Now it's actually seems like it's old. It's kind of antiquated. But remember ABBA? ABBA launched that new sort of virtual AI experience where people can go see this like sort of holographic version of ABBA in concert in London. And they're not there. Like they're not performing. But I think it's an AI holographic generated concert experience, and apparently it's fantastic. I've not seen it, and it's younger versions of them. So here they are performing for an audience of thousands of people. They're not there. It's younger versions of them, maybe in their prime, like in the 70s, for 2 hours. Like in London at a concert hall. Like who are you going to see tonight? Are you going to go see Sting in concert? No, I'm going to see a holographic AI version of ABBA in London. I'm going to go have dinner first, and then I'm going to go to this theater and see this experience. And, recently they brought out James Earl Jones. His voice, the family signed off on that for Fortnite so that there's an AI generated version of Darth Vader in this new like season of Fortnite, and people can interact with it and have conversations with it, and the family signed off on it. So presumably James Earl Jones' family, is making money, his estate from that. I just, my brain races with where this is going to go. I mean, I think about Harrison Ford can't really play Indiana Jones anymore. It's like a really sad kind of older version of Indiana Jones. But if you saw the most recent version of movie Indiana Jones, the beginning of the movie was the best part. The rest of the movie was horrible. But here it was like a young, CGI'd version of Harrison Ford for like the first 20 minutes of the film. And it took place, it was like the classic Indiana Jones that we all know and love, right? The 1930s, fighting Nazis. He looks young. His voice is spot on. And then we deteriorate with him being an older man. He's sort of a drunk older man. But I just picture Hollywood, like where that's going to go. Families sort of like allowing the use of Harrison Ford's voice if he passes away. And could they make a young Indiana Jones film in the future that you can't tell the difference? You wouldn't be able to tell the difference between him being on film and an AI version of Harrison Ford. I know I'm going crazy. I'm kind of geeking out with you on this,
No,
but
no, I
it's
totally agree. I mean,
fascinating.
what's interesting is that if you look again, look at them, like follow the money. If you look at box office revenue over the past 2, 3 years, a majority of the top 10 films were all sequels. So think about this. If
Huh.
they're sequels, right, and also animated with artificial intelligence, you can create synthetic voices. You mentioned Melania Trump's new book earlier. That's all a AI generated voice replica. It's synthetic. So these animated films can take, the big high profile celebrity's voice and again with text prompts just you activate that celebrity's voice. The celebrity no longer needs to go into the studio and record. And then on the other side, really, the ability to create hyper realistic, photorealistic imagery in video is there too. So you have all of these box office hits represented by movie sequels or even like third time editions of these movies. And I think a lot of these actors are going to take advantage of these, what we're calling digital doubles at my agency, where they don't really need to get off the couch. They can stay at home, and these digital doubles could be licensed to the movie studios. And we'll see an acceleration of content coming our way in many ways. And I think, honestly, the user experience is going to break the boundaries too. I talk about this in my book, where no longer will it be the four walls of the screen, but it's actually going to be a certain interaction with the world. So when we going back to the concert example that we were just talking about a minute earlier, think in terms of super fans engaging with brands. So if I'm a Taylor Swift fan, these Swifties are spending tons of money for concert tickets. You might have done it yourself with two daughters. I did. And the
Yeah.
reality is, though, if our daughter can have some kind of access to a unique experience, both digitally and physically. I'll pay extra ticket, a VIP superfan ticket, to see Taylor in the metaverse, meet her, ask her questions. I get my digital Taylor gear, but then I get a physical concert ticket. I could go over here in New York to Giant Stadium, the Meadowlands, and see her in concert, and then break through virtual experiences where if I find a portal, a digital portal on my phone, it will give me access to that limited edition Taylor Swift Gucci shirt that only I could buy behind the counter, and then take that back into the Gucci store to continue to activate the relationship with with Taylor Swift as a super fan. So I'm stretching out the experience between the artist, the brand, and the super fan from just a transactional moment at the concert into before, during, and after. The engagement is much bigger, much better for brands, and it's totally transformative. People will move through the streets in football stadiums, in concert halls, and have total different experiences with regards to original content, the length of the experiences, and the monetization of these experiences.
I mean, part of me is excited, but part of me is terrified. Part of me literally wants to take my iPhone and throw it in the toilet and like just go fly fishing and not be around any technology at all, and just remove myself completely from it. And then part of me is like, well, this is really fascinating. I'd love to see what they could do with, video editing and make that process fast. So I'm fascinated, but I'm also terrified of it. And I think this speaks to what the Pope was talking about, the new Pope Leo, who felt the reason he chose that name was to sort of lead us, choosing that name was to really lead us through this period of AI. And he talked about the Catholic Church and the future of humanity with AI. And he felt really called upon. And I was stunned by that. And my wife and I have been talking quite a bit about that. So, I think we can get excited about it, but I'm a little terrified. And I think maybe you can address that part of it and where the dark side of all of this and what the Pope is really talking about here to kind of guide humanity through this next stage. Because what I really worry about is like the dumbing down, where we're basically saying these globalists say, you know what, 13-year-olds, 14, you guys don't really need to think for yourselves anymore. Like, let us handle it. Let AI handle all of your math homework and your critical thinking skills when you're putting together an email or having
A
a
real
debate
issue.
on stage. And just we'll take care of it for you with AI. You don't need to do it anymore. You become a sheep.
Yeah, it's a real issue that you're highlighting. I talk about it as the information, the knowledge, haves versus have not war. And unfortunately, a lot of that's going to occur because generally speaking, humans are lazy, slothful pigs. So that's coming from my real property professor at Hofstra Law. But if you think about it, um, the access to information that artificial intelligence brings us, again, levels the playing field. No longer do you need to spend $100,000 a year for that university degree. I don't need to go to Harvard University now to get access to knowledge. I could do so right on my mobile phone. But will I read it? Right. And that's the issue. Will you take the time to learn, to strengthen your mind, to be a critical thinker, to fill up your information bottle, right? So you have those individuals that are going to continue to learn. They're curious. They really want to build their knowledge base, their knowledge center, versus the lazy ones who are just going to go ahead and access it for simplistic types of reasons. And that's not really ideal. I think it's going to create some level of separation in our society.
If any of you watching right now are homeowners, you need to pay attention to what I'm about to tell you because it's one of the fastest growing crimes in the United States of America, according to the FBI. Yes, scammers are stealing home titles, the title to your home, and you won't even know about it. You'll find out only later because someone has tried to take out a loan in your name. They're trying to target the equity in your home. And here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on one document. They use a fake notary stamp that they can get on Amazon. They're so cheap, it's ridiculous. They pay a small fee with your county. And then just like that, your home title has been transferred out of your name. It's that easy. Then they take out loans using your equity or even selling your property. And you won't even know it's happened until you get a collection notice or a foreclosure notice in the mail. Can you imagine? So when's the last time you checked on your home's title? If the answer is never, then you need to do something about it right now. That's why I've partnered with Home Title Lock, so you can find out today if you're a victim. Use my promo code REDACTED at HomeTitleLock.com, and you'll get a free title history report and a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title. That's urgent alerts if there's any changes to your home's title. And if fraud does happen, this is the best part. They will spend up to $1 million to fix it. It's incredible. Natalie and I are paying customers of Home Title Lock. They didn't give me a freebie. They didn't send me a free one because they're on our show. No, we pay for it. We believe it's that important to protect our home's title. That way, if there's ever a problem, we'll be notified about it, and then they can handle it. I don't have a team that can get my title back. They can do it. That's why they'll spend up to $1 million getting the title back on your home. They're fantastic. So go to HomeTitleLock.com, use the promo code REDACTED. That's HomeTitleLock.com, and use that promo code REDACTED. I think that's powerful because there's a lot to love about AI and getting answers about complex things. But to sit and then really think through those problems and having even conversations with AI, like my wife and I like to joke that we get in fights with AI all the time, where they're telling us things that we know to be false, and we challenge it, and then we'll get this AI response back that says, "Oh, you're right. Yes, in fact, this did happen. That's our apology." So how much? That's only because I know, because I've read books that I could challenge AI on those points. But for other people, they're going to take that stuff as face value and say, "Oh, okay, building 7, was hit. It came down naturally," or whatever it was. It's like, really, let's like actually dive into the details here on different topics. And if you don't know, then you don't know, and you're just going to take what AI spits out at you at face value. And would you say it's like garbage in, garbage out? Like it's the programming of this AI that's giving this garbage out answer in a lot of times.
Correct. And you're spot on. So this goes back to my concept of, read it, see it, but don't trust it, verify it. So a great idea is, like, you're touching on the centralized concept of who's training the corpus of knowledge. And you might be familiar, just by way of example, with China's LLM DeepSeek. DeepSeek was met with an enormous amount of popularity here in the United States. In fact, 2 million people downloaded this shiny silver object for free when it launched. It like rocketed to #1 on the Apple App Store. There were a lot of complications, but to your point, the programming was like Confucius-like. It was like almost like the CCP. It still is, it exists, but it's like the CCP is trying to retrain perhaps those lazy, slothful pigs or the younger generation that doesn't want to do the work like you were describing. So, by way of example, their version of Tiananmen Square is as if it never happened.
Right. I
Their
was just about to
characters,
ask. I was just about to ask. Can you, when you put in Tiananmen Square, like what is the result you get from this CCP controlled app?
it brushes right over it. It's as if that like revolutionary moment from that brave individual was never there. If you put Uyghurs in, who, you and I, we have already established that the Uyghurs are slaves in China. We understand that. But if you talk about the Uyghurs, DeepSeek responds with, China treats everybody equally. There are no slaves in China. And their characterization of their leader, their supreme leader, Xi Jinping, is different than the way you and I would see it. Now, imagine if you're the younger generation and you're using DeepSeek. It's actually a great tool. It works really well compared to ChatGPT, Perplexity, and other AI search agents. Um, Imagine if you don't want to do the homework and do the research, as you said, you're not going to be skeptical. You're going to believe everything you read. That could really have a chilling effect on an individual's perception of reality.
Yeah, I mean, well, we see that with brainwashing through all sorts of societies. I mean, we see it in America. I mean, with the propaganda, you see it through Europe with the news propaganda on television. We do it in different ways. So it seems like maybe the propaganda is going to shift. Like if you live in the country of Portugal, which I did for 5 years, you flip on the news, it's all propaganda. It's all pushing war, pro Ukrainian propaganda. CNN Portugal was arguably even worse than like the United States version of CNN for propaganda. So most people would get, older generation probably flip on the television and get that information. Now younger people are going to be met with propaganda through AI. Is that the new frontier?
I think it's really challenging. I believe in this type of brainwashing impact because of AI. Look, we wake up in the morning and artificial intelligence is the engine behind algorithms that are pushing content to you and your loved ones, your friends. It's showing you content that it believes you want to see with your set of values, whether that's on Netflix or on your phone, whether it's original content for, long form content for entertainment purposes, or just your feed as it relates to, on X as to what it thinks you want to see and hear. And as a result, you don't have this unbiased type of view of the world. So, yeah, I think it's problematic. That's one of the dark sides of AI for sure.
You know, you brought up the Chinese Communist Party, and you and I were having a conversation offline about being able to protect us. In the United States, we have states' rights. Now Congress has been moving forward in this big, beautiful bill with this basically regulatory control of AI at the federal level, where it wouldn't allow states like my state of Colorado or Montana or others to individually decide how they want to protect their citizens from AI. It would give power to the federal government, would give power to Congress. And anytime I hear like, oh, Congress is getting more power over my life, no, full stop. I'm like
Yeah,
you. I don't want to have any,
they'll
yeah.
protect you. Don't worry. They'll
Oh,
protect you.
sure. Right. They always do. So Congress getting more power over AI. And then you have like the Chinese Communist Party of China with this like centralized control over AI. They're able to release DeepSeek. They control what communications flow through that country, what they're allowed to see online, what apps are allowed. The same thing in North Korea and otherwise. I'm very much anti-communist. I'm very much anti-socialist. But it does our capitalist society, our sort of decentralized states' rights country, make us in many ways more vulnerable to some of the problems with AI and like cyber attacks.
Yeah, it certainly does. That's a great question because, right here where I am in New York City, we're at the center, like this vortex of cyber attacks. New York City, according to its chief technology officer, who I have a relationship with, and he shared this with me. New York City receives 80 billion cyber events or cyber attacks every single week from bad actors like Iran, China, North Korea, and beyond. And these cyber attacks are coming right at our infrastructure. It's coming to our water supply, our telecommunications, into our financial systems, our hospitals. And it's problematic because, to your point, it's the private sector that is operating all of these different verticals, these business sectors. So it's difficult to create a defense as a unified front. And what's happened, I was really surprised to hear this actually, but what's happened is that New York City had to go and create a like a three-legged alignment with the United States Department of Defense as well as with New York State to create a cohesive defense system, first line of defense against these incoming cyber attacks. You can imagine, it's hard to believe, but you can imagine like China or Iran, where they're controlling their entire infrastructure, they're able to like somehow, with this unified front, protect themselves from cyber attacks better than we can here because, it's going to the, Northwell Hospital Group first, right? So it's an interesting
Right.
problem that we have right now.
So yeah, the hospitals have to protect themselves separately because it's not run by the government. So a hospital, a business has to protect to make sure that they don't have blackouts and all of their, all of their equipment turns off in the middle of a woman giving birth or a surgery taking place for a, cardiac arrest. So that hospital has to deal with it differently than, the subway system in New York City has to deal with it. To the zoo at Central Park, I mean, that's fascinating to think about. Although Iran, despite all of that centralization, wasn't able to stop President Obama's Stuxnet attack, which brought down their nuclear reactors, ground their their nuclear reactors to a halt, with that massive thing that got out of hand, and we lost control of it, and wound up bringing down their nuclear program. In a lot of ways, I think it's. Are you encouraged? Are you excited? I mean, are you mostly? I mean, you've written a book about it. You've obviously worked with Melania to stop the problems with AI. So, do you kind of sit on the fence with it? Are you cautiously optimistic? Where do you kind of sit with AI personally?
I'm a complete tech optimist. I believe that artificial intelligence will fundamentally, radically change for the better the American society in 3 to 5 years. I believe that people can use artificial intelligence to improve their careers and create financial value. I think families can be enhanced through the use of artificial intelligence technology. And I think in turn, communities and cities will function in a more efficient manner because of AI. And when I talk about cities running, I mean, I'm talking not just about protecting against cyber attacks, but architecture, land use, access to food, better healthcare, and beyond. Like, I truly believe all of this. In
Traffic
fact,
patterns.
for sure, for sure. Even like farming capabilities, like following weather patterns. It's all in my book. It's really interesting. I feel like you would really appreciate a lot of these small nuances that go into the technology. But I predict financially that artificial intelligence coupled with cryptocurrency will represent the largest growth percentage-wise sector as far as like sectors go in the United States over the next 4 years during the Trump administration. He's really unlocking a lot of ingenuity and entrepreneurship. We're going to see a ton of innovation come on, and it's going to be good if they don't regulate too much and they allow for investment opportunities to grow these different ideas and bring great talent back into the United States. We lost a lot of talent because of overregulation and uncertainty during the Biden administration as it relates to crypto and AI. But now, with so much, a step in the right direction and support from the Trump administration, I see a lot of great growth opportunity here across all business sectors. Very excited about it.
I mean, I'm mostly an optimist. I'm always a glass half full kind of person. So I get excited. The improving traffic patterns, all sorts of efficiencies and things like that. I'm definitely on board with. But then I also get very, I just watched Terminator a few weeks ago again I haven't seen it in years, and my wife had never seen it. And so then you think about Skynet, and you think about things running away from us where we no longer have control of it. It becomes in many ways sentient. Have we already reached that point, by the way? I feel like I keep hearing people saying that, no, that's already happened. It happened a few years ago. Like AI,
Yeah.
it's already on its own.
Well, I'm not sure if we reached that point yet. I think we're very close to it. But I want to tell you, like this concept of like transhumanism, where we use artificial intelligence technology to enhance humans, we are there. For example, in the medical industry right now, there's a group of doctors right here in the tri-state area. They embedded chips into the brains of patients suffering from paralysis. I think it was 3 patients that are in the program already. And they used artificial intelligence to run neurons. It's basically the way they described it to me is like it's a bypass type of surgery in your brain with electricity. So the AI is pushing the neurons to fire against each other away from the dead zone. And as a result, they've already proven that these paralyzed patients can both feel and move again. And just recently, Elon Musk used his chip, it's called Neuralink, in the brain of an individual who was unable to speak due to disease. And this individual was able to find voice, was able to speak again. So this concept of machine and man merging together, although it sounds scary and straight out of sci-fi, it's coming. And, think about it. Capitalism will allow for it. The people in the boardroom, if I could get an edge and I have a chip in my brain, it gives me access to data and information quicker, I'll take it. I have the money to do so. And we already have technology in our bodies, right? You must know people, unfortunately, that have pacemaker or some sort of other device that's embedded. So it's a little scary. One more point. You mentioned Pope Leo. And, there are big ethical and moral issues, faith-based issues that come into play with AI as well. And I think that part of what Pope Leo is going to have to look at is like, what does this mean to humankind, right? Like not just with advancements, perhaps in the ability to, have children, but, lifespans and this merger between the digital world and humanity. Like what does that mean? And I think the Pope is going to have to focus on those morality, those ethical issues too.
Right. And where does personal responsibility come into all of this? If you can sort of push off your responsibility to artificial intelligence, and where does faith come into this as well? Like as a person of faith, and how am I carrying myself as a good human being? How much of that can I push off on artificial intelligence, or sort of blame it on the computer? Is it a threat to religion? Is it a threat to faith? And then what does faith actually mean at the end of the day if we're giving over so much of our agency to this? I don't know. These are all the discussions we've been having like at dinner lately. So it's really fascinating. I'll get you out of here on this. Do you think we're living in a simulation?
I love that you said that. It's amazing. Well, let me throw back a question at you. Why are we all of a sudden having access to this tremendous amount of technological advancements and innovation? Why haven't we had it before? But all of a sudden, boom, it's coming at us in such an accelerated way. Maybe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's well, and you see these major advancements after we have like downed, reverse engineered UFO, crash sites at Roswell and otherwise. Suddenly we have microchips, we have personal computers that heretofore we didn't have. We have this massive, now we know, if we have anti-gravitational technology that's now we're hearing about at a much more accelerated pace. Like disclosure is moving much more quickly, and now suddenly out of the blue we have this AI revolution. Like holy smokes, like this, it seemed like it happened overnight, but yet we know that the US military, we know that the United States government has had their own version of AI that even predates this, and it's sort of walled off, I think, from like ChatGPT and otherwise. And I think it's in many ways even more advanced than ChatGPT. So I think they've had this in their in their purview, maybe the underground bases across the United States or whatever it is, and now we're getting like our own consumer version of it. So I'm fascinated by like why suddenly. That's a great question. I don't
And
know.
so fast, right? It's so accelerated. Like when we were a little bit younger, the idea of like going to Mars was foreign to us. Like that would never happen. But I'm curious, like, do you think that your children will see a rocket, maybe one of Elon Musk's rocket, land on Mars?
I feel like that's going to happen within like I feel like that's talk about acceleration. I feel like 6 years from now.
This is
You
my
know, I feel
point.
like yeah, I mean, I'll be in my mid 50s when I see us land on Mars for crying out loud. How did that happen?
Right? So all of this stuff like space exploration, advancements in medicine, new forms of payment, all of this, by the way, brings individual freedom too, if you think about it. I write this a lot about this concept a lot in my book too, like where you can control content and the forms of payment as long as it's not a centralized power where the government is behind it or a corporation is behind it. The individuals are really empowered, but it's all happening so fast across so many different sectors. Maybe at some point it will bring the world together in a closer way because really everybody will have a voice.
Yeah. Yeah, and sub-Saharan Africa having access to these tools and I don't know, being able to bring clean water much more efficiently, and we're not all sort of separated by thousands of miles anymore. It's a crazy thought. It's sort of like a next gener. It's of course, it's the globalists would love that for us to not have any borders at all. It's sort of like the Star Trek: The Next Generation future, where it's just one world together, and no governments and no nations anymore. Yeah, it's fascinating. I could talk about this all day, and I encourage our audience, go check out the book. It's called Some Future Day, How AI is Going to Change Everything. Marc Beckman is the author of that book, and it's fascinating discussion and maybe some great summer reading to think about as we enter this brave new world. Marc, great to see you. Thank you so much for your time.
Oh, it's been such a pleasure. I really, really appreciate your time and the opportunity. Thank you so much.